If you're researching Magnolia online while thinking about moving to Magnolia, Texas, you probably noticed something confusing. One video shows wide open land, tall pine trees, and even horses. The next shows brand new streets, playground, and master plan communities with pools and walking trails. Both versions are real, and that is exactly why Magnolia can be difficult to understand if you're looking at it from the outside. When you look closely at how North Houston is growing, Magnolia is one of the places that naturally enters the conversation. In this video, we're going to walk through what Magnolia actually looks like on the ground, where the acreage lifestyle exists, where the newer suburban communities are developing, what the commute to day-to-day rhythm really feels like, and what the numbers suggest if you're thinking about long-term. By the end, you will have a clear framework to decide whether you should move to Magnolia, Texas, or whether another North Houston community might fit your lifestyle better. I'm Cristobal with Agape Real Estate Group. My family and I live right here in North Houston. I started as a real estate investor before becoming an agent, so I tend to look at homes, neighborhoods, and growth a little differently. On this channel, we talked about places like the Woodlands, Conroe, Spring, Tomball, and Magnolia, helping you understand what life in these communities actually looks like before you make a move. If that kind of insight is helpful, consider subscribing so you can stay updated on what's happening across the North Houston area. Alright, let's get into it. Magnolia is not one single market. One of the biggest misunderstandings I see online is people talking about Magnolia as if it were only one single type of place. In reality, Magnolia is a mix of two very different ways of living: acreage communities and new master plan neighborhoods. On the acreage side, you will find communities like high meadow estates, the Cedars, and many half-acre to multi-acre properties scattered around FN 1486 and the surrounding back roads. These areas tend to offer more space, quieter surroundings, and fewer shared amenities. On the other side, there are newer developments such as Audubon, Colton, Timber Hollow, and nearby communities like Creston. These neighborhoods look more like many people picture when they look online for the best neighborhoods in Houston, Texas. Homes built in newer phases with community pools, trail, parks, and shared gathering spaces. When people start browsing listings online moving to Magnolia, Texas, this mix can make the market feel confusing. One property might be a farmhouse on several acres, while the next could be a brand new home in a planned community. Understanding that Magnolia includes both of these lifestyles is one of the first steps in deciding whether this area is actually what you're looking for: location, commute, and daily reality. Let's take a moment to look at where Magnolia actually sits on the map and what that means for everyday life. Magnolia is located just west of the Woodlands and connects to the area mainly through FM 1488 and Highway 249, also known as the Ag Expressway. On a clear day with light traffic, many parts of Magnolia are roughly 30 to 35 minutes from the Woodlands Mall. But here's the honest part: FN 1488 has experienced significant growth and ongoing construction. And once you reach the I-45 corridor, congestion can become very real, especially during peak hours. The long-term story here is Highway 249. The Agape Expressway has opened a new growth corridor stretching north and west, and large developers have been acquiring land near 249 and FN 1486 to support thousands of new homes over the coming years. That expansion is one of the reasons you are seeing so much construction around Magnolia today. Builders are positioning themselves along this corridor because the road is expected to influence development in much the same way other highways have shaped growth in places like Conroe and Wood Forest. For someone moving to Magnolia, Texas, the daily experience can vary depending on where you work and how you often need to commute. If your work takes you towards the Woodlands, the drive can feel manageable outside of peak hours, but slower during rush hours. If your work takes you towards College Station, Highway 249 can make that route much more convenient. And for people who work remotely and only need access to hospitals, airports, or shopping occasionally, Magnolia can offer a quieter setting while still remaining connected to the region. One of these factors are good or bad on their own. They simply need to match the routine and expectations. Before deciding whether Magnolia, Texas is a good place to live, it helps to think honestly about where you work, how often you commute, and what your day-to-day life will actually look like. Schools, growth, and the future of Magnolia ISD. Another factor many people evaluate when studying an area is how the local school district is planning for future growth. Magnolia ISD has been expanding steadily. Over the past few years, the district has added more than 1,300 students, and projections suggest enrollment could increase by another 1,800 students over the next several years. Because of that growth, the district placed a bond package on the November 2025 ballot that includes a new high school, additional elementary campuses, transportation improvements, safety upgrades, and expanded facility across the district. One important detail is that the district structured the bond so these projects could be funded while staying within the district's legal tax capacity. From a market perspective, planning like this often plays an important role in the real estate market of Magnolia, Texas. When infrastructure and a school expands alongside population growth, it can help create more stability for housing demand over time. At the same time, it's important to verify zoning and district boundaries carefully. Some communities that are marketed as being near Magnolia may actually find into neighboring jurisdictions. Creston, for example, is often associated with Magnolia, but is technically located in Montgomery along FN 1486. That's why maps and district boundaries should always be confirmed rather than assumed. When people begin evaluating whether is Magnolia, Texas a good place to live, this combination of population growth, district planning, and new development becomes an important part of the long-term picture. Affordability, ROI, and the real numbers. Now let's talk about the numbers, because this is usually where people either become very interested in Magnolia or start asking more questions. Compare with areas like the Woodlands, Cypress, or some parts of Tomball, Magnolia can offer lower entry price points for newer homes and some acreage-style properties. That difference is one of the reasons people studying in the real estate market of Magnolia, Texas often pay close attention to how this area is evolving. As of early 2026, several markets reports place average home values in Magnolia somewhere in the mid $300,000 range. Although prices vary significantly depending on the property type, the land size, whether the home is part of a New York community, etc., etc. Inventory levels have also increased slightly compared to the extremely tight market of a few years ago. That gives buyers more time to evaluate options, while well-priced homes for sale in Magnolia, Texas are still moving with a reasonable time frame. When you step back and look at the bigger picture, the market here appears to be stabilizing after several years of rapid growth. Builders slow slightly, buyers have more time to evaluate their decisions, and pricing is adjusting in a way that many people consider healthier for the long-term planning. For investors and long-term buyers, Magnolia often becomes interesting because of the combination of relative affordability and the ongoing development along Highway 249 and FN 1488. Road infrastructure and commercial projects tend to shape how communities grow over time. That's why many people who analyze the real estate market of Magnolia, Texas, are not only looking at today's prices, but also paying attention to how the area may develop over the next decade. New construction, cost of living, and who Magnolia is really for. Another reality to understand about Magnolia today is that much of the housing activity here is driven by new construction. Builders are active in this area because land is still available, and the Highway 249 corridor has opened easier access to different parts of the region. As you drive through communities like Audubon, Timber Hollow, and several other developments nearby, you will notice model homes, new phases under construction, and signs promoting builder incentives. Those incentives can include interest rate buydowns, closing cost contributions, or credit at the design center. They exist because builders want to keep homes moving and maintain construction momentum. Sometimes those programs can be beneficial, but it's important to understand how they work. Walking into a model home without your own representation doesn't necessarily save money. It simply removes a person who's looking at the things like lot placement, drainage, nearby construction phases, and long-term resale potential. Cost of living is another part of the equation that many people overlook. In Magnolia, property taxes can vary significantly between communities, especially in newer developments where municipal utility districts or MUDs are still paying for infrastructure. On a $450,000 home, the difference can be between a 2.2% tax rate and a 3.1% tax rate, and that can translate into several $100s per month. Understanding those long-term costs is an important part of deciding whether you should move to Magnolia, Texas. For people comparing Magnolia with more established neighborhoods in Houston, Texas, the appeal often comes down to space, newer homes, and quieter environment, even if that means driving a bit more as part of the everyday life. If you are planning a move to North Houston, whether you are considering Magnolia, the Woodlands, Conroe, Spring, or Tomball, and you'd like help understanding how these areas compare, I'd be glad to help. You will find my contact information in the description below, and you can schedule a call if you would like to talk through the market, the neighborhoods, and what might fit your plans best. My goal is simple: to provide clear information and thoughtful guidance so you can make confident decisions. Magnolia may not be the right fit for everyone, but for people looking for more space, newer homes, and a quieter setting while still staying connected to the region, it can be a very interesting option to explore. Thanks for watching. Nos vemos en el próximo video. And until then, may your next move bring you peace, purpose, and a fresh start in the right place.